Number one. This discussion can go across the board, but we're going to stick to Christianity for the moment. Christendom comprises of a large majority of the population within North America. I am not arguing pro-homophobia or anti-gay. 3, I'm not gay, but if I were, that wouldn't change my argument. Now, I don't really have an argument per se, so much as a question. How can you be a religious person and be homophobic? Homophobia to the point of hating gays or not being around gays, etc., etc. There seems to be a huge contradiction. Now, before we get to the contradiction, let's talk about some of the things that are said, some of the arguments between both camps. The fundamentalist Christian will say that being gay is a sin. A sin here being something that's not in perfection or in the sense of the perfect will of God. They believe there's a way things are supposed to be and a way things that people do, and there's a discrepancy between these things. So it's a separation from God. Big disclaimer, by the way, guys, I'm not a theologian, so if I get this concept wrong, I'm sorry. Anyway, you get the point. Those on the other side of this argument would probably say that, well, you know what? Lots of things are sins. If sin is basically a separation from God, you can't be more or less separated from God. You're either with God or not with God, right? You're either in heaven or not in heaven. You can't be like in a partial heaven or like, you know, outside the gate, but wanting to get in and might be in and might not be in. Does anyone have a key for this door? Let me in. Either something is a sin or not a sin. Now, I know that some people say that there's degrees of sin, etc., etc. The basic Christian doctrine is that sin is separation from God, and everyone who sins deserves hell. There would be no difference between sins, at least in the end result of sin. Hence the conception of the Messiah, whether or not you steal bubblegum from the store, are gay, or kill someone, all sins would be equal. Why is it that Christians think it's such a terrible thing to be gay, an abomination, they say? At the same time, I don't see these same people picketing the offices of lawyers who lie for a living, or rich people who take money from the poor, or for government officials for also lying. Once again, if sins are the same, then you should be also treating them the same, or should you not? Fighting sin equally, not just picking and choosing. Regardless that you're an atheist or a theist, let's look at this for a second. We can agree that we still evolve socially, genetically, etc. The gay community has gone to the other extreme and said that it is only genetics, that everyone is born that way. Now, if we assume evolution, both genetic and social, then we have to deny that. Okay, now, hold on a second. I don't mean that everyone chooses to be gay. That's ridiculous. It seems more reasonable to say that some people have a genetic disposition towards being gay, and some people have a genetic disposition towards being straight, and some people have no genetic disposition at all. Now, both sides will argue against that because both sides have a reason to defend themselves. The argument for choice in itself is not that terrible of an argument, but what it's been used for, a lot of bigotry and a lot of hate and a lot of stupid things, so the gay community has acted to the other extreme and denied it completely. I mean, they're just being pragmatic, trying to protect themselves. I mean, you would too, right? My personal view is that the conception of sexuality is a lot more fluid than people think. Now, we also know that genetic dispositions don't always choose one's fate. For example, there are people that could be preconditioned towards alcoholism, but never actually touch alcohol. Well, that doesn't actually mean that they are technical alcoholic, though they are a potential one. This brings in the aspect of nature versus nurture. Now, to be pragmatic, let's assume that both are possible. Now, if it's nature, well then once again, you would go with whatever your genetic predisposition is. If it's nurture, then things like your upbringing, things like your experiences, etc., etc., might have an effect on which way you swing. In any other field, most people would agree that what happens to you in your life affects who you are. So really, there ends up being a potential of a plethora of sexualities involved here, not just gay or straight, or not just you are gay or you're straight for your life. Someone could have a predisposition for being straight, they could end up being gay, and the vice versa as well. To deny that is to deny the theory of evolution itself. The crazy fundamentalists will say, well then that's okay because we don't believe in evolution. Even fundamentalist academics will say that they don't believe in macroevolution, but they still believe in microevolution, in the ability for a species to adapt or to carry on traits. But let's give the fundamentalist guys a little bit of a break and say that hypothetically you can choose your sexuality across the board. that doesn't mean that you can unchoose it. To give an idea of what I'm trying to say, let's look at the first alcoholic in a line of alcoholics, because we know that alcoholism does have a genetic predisposition as well. Well, there are some people that become alcoholics that don't have that predisposition. How do they become alcoholics? And once they are an alcoholic, do they ever not become an alcoholic? Anyone who's been to an AA meeting knows that once you're an alcoholic, once you choose to drink and become an alcoholic, you can't choose to not be an alcoholic. You're an alcoholic for the rest of your life, but you still chose through your choices to be an alcoholic, in the sense that you chose to drink, chose to like it, and go too crazy with it and become addicted to it. The original choice was yours. Now, obviously, alcoholism has a negative connotation, so I apologize for that reference, but it kind of gives you the idea of what I'm trying to say. The last thing I want to talk about would be the fundamentalist claim that there is a gay agenda, that the gay community is trying to seek acceptance and make people believe them, argue within schools and et cetera, trying to incorporate the idea of homosexuality being okay. And to be fair, I think there might be a gay agenda, the agenda to be accepted in society. Last time I checked, that's not a bad thing. Doesn't everybody? I think you have a lot more important things that you could be fighting for. Say, like ending world poverty, which would probably be the bigger sin. I mean, if you want to give levels to sins, I'm thinking I would think that, lots of children dying needlessly because of people's greed. Two guys are gay. I don't know. Which one would be worse? Crap, I wasn't supposed to choose sides. Now this post is going a little long, so I know that I never actually got to the contradiction that I alluded to earlier, but that will be in part 2. But if you can think of any contradictions that might exist, I can think of a lot, so it's going to be a long one next time too. But if you can think of any contradictions that exist between claiming to be a religious person and being homophobic or being a bigot towards gays, let me know.